Hello guys, this is Optics, and I'm going to be teaching you today how to set up your key bindings and your interface to suit a PvP structured player. This should help you, and I hope it's easy enough for you to understand. And if you have any questions, please don't be afraid to comment below. First part is going to be the interface editor, and the second part is going to be key bindings. Please enjoy. Now, I'm going to try and tell you how to set up a user interface for PvP only. Take a look at the default user interface and then compare it to what your user interface will look like at the end of this tutorial. The default one, without any other quick bars enabled, is about the same size taken up on the screen as the normal one, maybe even more, and that's without any quick bars enabled. The user interface that I will provide is very tidy and will help you in PvP ultimately. Once you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started in the interface editor. To access this, you press escape and then click interface editor. Now, for newly introduced players, this can be a very confusing thing, because obviously there are lots of options on the screen, and believe it or not, these aren't even all of them. But I'm just going to dumb it down for you, and we're sort of going to do this in sections. Now, because this is a PvP interface guide, we're going to get rid of everything that we don't need inside of war zones. So that means that we're going to get rid of things like the mission tracker, and what we're going to do is, in the actual interface editor box, we're going to scroll down and click enabled so that the square is not lighted up, and then it will disappear. We're going to do this with a few things, such as the companion target panel, the tutorials panel, and that's about it. What we need to do next is resize some things. So the menu bar, what we're going to do to make it smaller and so it will fit in more, we're going to change the buttons per row. We're going to change it to 6. This will enable you to have 2 rows. Next, you want to go to the minimap. Change it down to a scale of 0.9. Notice how the large tooltip has to be moved with the minimap as they are connected, and we'll get into that in a minute. Next, you want to find the 3 quick bars that aren't enabled at the moment. One is on the right, one is on the left, and one is above your and your enemy's target frames. So what you're going to want to do is make sure they are enabled by lighting up the square that says enabled, and make sure show background is unchecked, and you're going to want to do that with all of these. And then, when you're ready, press save. You want to save every now and again just to get things ready, and in case something tragic happens, at least you have some kind of save ready to load off again. Now, with the menu bar, you're going to want to change it to a scale of about 0.9 or maybe even smaller. Possibly a 0.7. If you really want to tidy up your whole screen, you could change the buttons per row to 4 so that you have 3 rows, and that will really minimize the size. However, if you're having it this small, then it's going to be really hard to click the buttons, so you might need to increase it to 0.8 of size. Now let's get on to quick bars and target frames. So the enemy target frame and your target frame, you're just going to want to put them up here for the moment while we set up the quick bars. Now, the experience bar, to just get that out of the way, you're going to want to put it at the top, and because we're level 50 and this is a PvP interface editor, just stick it at the top and change the scale to whatever suits you so that it's sort of out of the way. If you really want to, you can disable it, but I like to see how much legacy experience I have, personally. Press save again. Remember to keep pressing save just in case something tragic happens. Now, bring all your quick bars down so that you can see them. First thing we're going to do is change the quick bars that are not angled correctly to have a number of slots per row to 6. Same goes with this one. This has now made them horizontal, and that's what we want. However, we're actually going to change all of the action bars to 6 slots per row because it enables us to have more room in our screen, which is a whole objective of an interface. So now we've got 4 quick bars, all of them have 6 slots per row, or they should, and now we want to tidy them up a bit. So we're going to change the scale down to 0.9. Once that's done, you can drag them all down to the bottom middle if you haven't already, and this is where we're going to start actually setting up our interface. So when you've got the menu bar at the bottom right, you're going to want to line up the quick bar that you want nearest to the right as close to the menu bar as you can possibly get it. Remember, the lines, the yellow lines, do not actually mean where the actual quick bar is going to touch. So you want the yellow lines to override the menu bar a little bit. Same goes with the other quick bars. We're going to want to bunch them all together, and remember, the coloured lines, you can overlap them with the other coloured lines because that is not actually the size of the quick bar. When we've got all of them together, we're going to go back to the minimap. And you want the minimap to go as close to the quick bar that you have furthest to the left as possible, as the large tooltip can actually be displayed off the screen if you don't have it close enough to the middle of the screen. That's why I also changed the scale to 0.9 to help this. Now that's basically the setup of the bottom of your screen, and that's the setup of your quick bars. Now for the player and target frames, we want the player frame to be in generally the same place, just as low as possible. You also want to leave a space between the player frame and the target frame, just a small one, for the combat state to go in. The player cast bar will go directly above your player. However, the target cast bar, this is something that in PvP we really need to keep an eye on. So we're actually going to increase the scale to the maximum, and then we're going to have it around the top middle of the screen because we want to see exactly when the target is casting an ability, because it's important for PvP to know when to interrupt, etc, etc. So we do want it in the top middle, or near the middle at least. Then remember again to keep pressing save, and you might sometimes want to just press the cross and have a look at your interface. Now you're going to want to switch to, once you've done the main HUD, to the group option, and then you're going to want to look at the group frames on the left hand of your screen. You want these to be as close to the left as possible and slightly downscaled. Also try to bunch them as close together as you possibly can. Then remember to press save. And the focus target, this is something that you might use in PvP as well, as it enables you to keep an extra target focused to note what they're doing. For example, you'd focus a healer to see when they're casting and so forth. You also want to drag the focus target cast bar down, and generally you want this to be right above the normal enemy target bar. And that's about it for the group section. Now for the ops, you want this to be the top left, and you don't want to change the scale of this, as this is actually quite important in Warzones to see the state of your friendly players. Also, if you're a healer, then you're going to want to up the scale of this by quite a bit. I'd say to 1.2. Then you want to change the health width. Remember, only do this if you're a healer, and push it up to about 135 to 136. Health height, you want to push this up to about 28. And you definitely want to enable show health text. That reminds me, you want to have show health text on your enemy target frames as well. Show information text. Remember to press save, and we can move on to Warzones, as space combat and conversation don't matter for PvP. The only things we really need to look at here are the scoreboards. We want to down the scale of all of these to about 0.85. This includes the Denova scoreboard, the Voidstar scoreboard, the Hutball scoreboard, and the Alderon scoreboard. Then drag them all over to the right middle. Things like the Hutball scoreboard might have to be scaled down to 0.8 as they're very long and they might take up too much of the screen. Move them all in the same place, or roughly the same place, because obviously these aren't going to be displayed at the same time. Then you can press save, and that's about everything we need to do with our interface. This is a tidy interface, it allows you a lot of room to see, and generally this is going to help you out quite a bit in Warzones, especially with the target cast bar being at the top, and with the focus targets, the target cast bars and all the quick bars being laid out in a tidy fashion. This is a very good PvP situated interface, and I recommend you call this PvP or your character name. That's everything we need to do with the interface editor.